Hi, my name is Matt Smith. I'm a renter in District 2. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, and I also work for Amazon as a cargo handler full-time. And like hundreds of other Amazon workers in Seattle, I am a strong supporter of the Amazon tax movement. I'm one of the 30,000 voters who have signed the petition to get an Amazon tax on the ballot, and we are prepared to fight all the way to November if the council fails to pass a strong Amazon tax today. And it is absolutely because of the strength of this movement that we're even having this discussion today. Since March 1st, Jeff Bezos has increased his wealth by $60 billion. Amazon's stock price has skyrocketed, but Amazon workers like me have not seen that wealth, and neither has our community. So I urge the council to stand with working people, stand with renters, stand with people of color, and not Jeff Bezos and corporate landlords. Pass a strong Amazon tax without a sunset clause. Thank you.
When this council passed a much weaker tax in 2018 before repealing it in a cowardly abdication to corporate power, this movement promised you we would be back for more. Well, here we are, bigger and stronger than before than we were 2 years ago, despite the organizing limitations of this pandemic, despite big businesses withering attack on activists and community members fighting for this, and despite Amazon's unprecedented financial interference in last year's elections. With the exception of Councilmember Peterson, whom Amazon supported over his black socialist challenger, Amazon and big business stood against every member of this council and against the clear will of the electorate. So what I'm asking all of you today, with the exception of Councilmember Samant, is why you're out here doing their bidding still, considering the reintroduction of a sunset clause. What were you doing on Wednesday when you voted down Shama's amendments to build an additional 1,000 homes in the CD to help prevent gentrification and to fund Green New Deal programs, which are ideas that you all like to support, except when it actually comes to putting our money where your mouths are. Pass the Amazon tax now without a sunset clause and stand with your communities to build the housing we need. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eva Metz. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'm one of the thousands of people who've been active in the Tax Amazon movement, including collecting 30,000 signatures on Initiative 131. We need to be clear that today's historic vote is happening entirely because of this movement. It's no coincidence that many of the same forces behind Seattle's landmark victory for the $15 minimum wage again played a leading role in the fight to tax Amazon, including Socialist Alternative and Councilmember Shama Sawant. In both cases, we've shown that what we've won or what we can win in City Hall is based on the strength of our movements. In both cases, many argued that we shouldn't antagonize big business and should instead try to broker a deal. And in both cases, we completely rejected this approach. We know that under capitalism, big business and working people's interests are diametrically opposed. Throughout this struggle, we based our power on the organization of the working class, not on trying to negotiate backroom deals. Pass the Amazon tax today, no delays, no corporate loopholes. When we fight, we can win. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daniel, and I'm a renter and worker in District 4. I'm here to urge the council to pass the strongest version of the Amazon tax with no watering down, no sunset clause, and no delay. The fact that the council is even considering a tax on big business is completely a product of the hundreds of community volunteers that have built pressure on the council through the Amazon tax ballot initiative. Over 30,000 people have signed our ballot initiative in only a month, expressing their support for a permanent tax on big business to fund affordable housing and Green New Deal jobs programs. Passing the Amazon tax today will absolutely be a victory for our working class movement led by Councilmember Shama Sawant and Socialist Alternative. Community members and partner organizations will be meeting at our action conference Wednesday, which everyone listening should attend. We will democratically decide what to do with the signatures and what to do next in this movement. Also, defund the SPD by at least 50%. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm a District 2 renter, and I've talked to thousands of Seattleites and even thousands of people who've been pushed out of this city due to the high cost of living who support a strong Amazon tax. These people are demanding that Amazon and other big business who've profited off of this pandemic, who insult their workers and deny them hazard pay a tax to actually ensure that our communities are safe and invest in Black and brown communities as well as working class families. We demand no loopholes, no sunset clauses. This victory needs to spread state and nationwide, not on some mythical promise of a regional solution that will come probably fucking never, but because of the inspiring victory that we win here today. Working people in this state have been fighting for progressive taxation since the 1930s. A sunset clause would be an insult to that movement, and it would be an attack on the thousands of people who have fought in the midst of a pandemic for racial justice and for a big business tax. Justice for Summer Taylor. We demand a defunding of the Seattle police, and we are coming for Bezos.
Hi, my name is Matt Hinia. I'm a software engineer in Seattle. Thank you, City Council, for bringing a big business bill to the vote today. I urge every council person to vote yes. that public support for an Amazon tax is through the roof has been obvious to everyone in the city for years. Why is it that a small group of over-dedicated volunteers gathering signatures has to do the work of joining the city council to the actual needs of the people they claim to represent? I would also like to commend the city council for removing the sunset clause. A sunset clause is nothing short of anti-democratic on a legislation like this. If in 10 years this law is no longer relevant, let the opposition do the work in repealing it. To force the public to prove again and again through massive effort their desire for a fair and equitable tax structure in this city, as if even a level playing field is a concession, is cruel. The housing crisis didn't start 10 years ago, and this legislation alone won't fix it. So why assume that it will be over 10 years from now? The January 2020 McKinsey report on homelessness in Seattle states that the King County government needs to spend, and I quote, $450 million to $1.1 billion per year for the next 10 years on new public housing to.
My name is Paige Spicer, and I am in District 6. I am requesting that Dan Strauss and the entire City Council do the right thing and pass the payroll tax today. Do not wait. We are facing an unprecedented economic crisis from which we will not recover without big business being taxed, especially in Seattle with the nation's most regressive tax system. Amazon is a blight on our city. I was contracted there in the past and witnessed the atrocious management and abuse of their employees, the suicide attempt of an Amazon employee, the underlying employee data that contradicts all of their seemingly positive statistics around equality. And I've also been a lifelong resident of King County and watched Amazon destroy small businesses, destroy the housing market, and push lifelong residents out of the city. They must support the city that supports them. Pass the payroll tax today with no sunset clause. Also, Jenny Durkin has failed us, and we demand she immediately resign and that the City Council hold Officer Molly Clark, badge number 5677, accountable for attempted vehicular assault on protesters, and that she immediately be fired from the Seattle Police Department. Also, I demand that we defund SPD by at least 50%. I yield my time.
Hi, my name's Alicia Lewis. I'm a member of Socialists Alternative, and I've been active in the Tax Amazon movement. I just want to say it's not surprising, though it's still shameful, that the Democratic establishment is trying to take credit for the Amazon tax, even though they've been fighting it every step of the way. When our grassroots movement, Socialist Alternative, and Council Member Sawant first launched our fight for an Amazon tax in Seattle earlier this year, corporate Democrats in Olympia immediately hatched a scheme to ban local cities from passing big business taxes. If our movement hadn't mobilized to defeat that ban, we wouldn't be discussing this legislation today. Similarly, the Democratic establishment was looking for every excuse to delay a vote on the Amazon tax until it became clear that our movement, which had collected 30,000 ballot petition signatures in 1 month, was too powerful to be ignored. This Amazon tax is absolutely due to our movement's victory. And working people and socialists and activists which pressured the establishment into taking action, and we're ready to fight against any underhanded attempts at a sunset clause or delay.
Hi, my name is Joe. I live in D6. I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, UAW, and I'm a music teacher. And I want to echo what folks have said about the strength of the tax Amazon movement, the thousands of us that were involved, that is forcing and putting pressure on the City Council to vote on and pass this Amazon tax. And this is a historic victory for working people. This would not be happening today were it not for our grassroots movement. Also, the Tax Amazon movement was met with overwhelming support at the Justice for George Floyd protest because people know that Amazon and big business are responsible for racist gentrification in our city. And it is a common sense, anti-racist decision to tax the rich to fund affordable housing now. Passing the Amazon tax today without watering it down is a concrete way of saying Black Lives Matter, and shamefully introducing any sort of sunset clause would be saying something like in 4 or 10 years, Black lives and Black folks having homes in our city no longer matters to the City Council. So we say Black Lives Matter, tax Amazon, build affordable housing now, no sunset clause, and our movement is watching. Working people have the power.
Hi, I'm Ellen Anderson in District 2. I'm calling today to echo the call of Seattleites across the city demanding that the City Council pass the strongest possible Amazon tax. Also, congratulations to the Tax Amazon movement on forcing the Democratic establishment to put forward a tax. During this crisis, we need to ensure that this tax has absolutely no loopholes, no sunset clause, and prioritizes the needs of working people, not corporations who have been pulling in profits hand over fist at the cost of working people. So now it is time to put some money where your mouth is. We are sick of constantly hearing you verbally supporting things the tax Amazon would give to the city while voting for a watered-down sunset clause tax and then thanking each other for all the hard work that the movement has won. Your thank yous mean nothing to working people. We demand housing now.
Hi, Maya Garfinkel, an organizer with Be Seattle. We need to tax Amazon without a sunset clause and to defund SBD by at least 50%. 50,000 may face eviction when the moratorium lifts. What do we want our city to look like? A ghost town which the wealthiest few can afford, who cycle in and out every few years? Or do we want communities who fight for their city and take care of each other? Many of these folks have already been forced to leave because of politicians' cowardice. If you do not support the broadest tax Amazon legislation and defunding SBD to fund permanently affordable housing while saying you support the uprisings across the country, you're simply paying lip service without actually fighting to make sure that low-income Black and other people of color renters are able to stay in Seattle. Tax Amazon, defund SBD. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rosie Daniels. I'm a District 3 renter and part of the Tax Amazon movement. It's been a huge honor to organize with so many different people in this movement. Union members, frontline Amazon workers, faith leaders, and many who are getting active for the first time. Why are we all joining together? It's because from years of budget cuts to the coronavirus crisis, the incredible courage that people have shown during the Black Lives Matter protests, we know that the city isn't going to run the way it used to. Working people can't afford that anymore. We have to fight for something better. You see it too, Council. In no universe would you be considering an Amazon tax were it not for the strength of our movement and the fact that we're fully prepared to take the Amazon tax all the way to November's ballot if you don't pass something strong enough. As a city, we must also defund SPD by at least 50%. Black Lives Matter. Thank you. I yield my time.
My name is Kira Miko. I'm a D3 renter and a member of Socialist Alternative. In the past month, I helped our movement gather over 30,000 signatures for our Tax Amazon ballot initiative. 20,000 of those signatures were gathered at the Justice for George Floyd protests, and this is not a coincidence. Even if the 8 city council members who voted no on building 1,000 homes in the Central District last Wednesday failed to see the connection between saying Black Lives Matter and making sure that working class Black people can actually continue to live in this city, people out at the protests do understand that racism in our city doesn't start and end with the Seattle Police Department, although we should absolutely defund them by 50% at least. In February, a UW study found that Black adults in King County are 7 times more likely to be evicted than white adults. Thousands of people in Seattle understand that racial justice must include housing justice. And as every city council member at this meeting has publicly stated that Black Lives Matter, I hope you see that too.
Hi, this is Alice Lockhart. I'm an organizer with 350 Seattle. After centuries of inequality and structural racism and decades of regressive taxes, we are now in a moment of unprecedented crisis and unprecedented need, but also unprecedented awakening to that need. Council, you truly can go much bolder right now. We strongly support Amendments 20 and 20C, which would realize more badly needed revenue by taxing our biggest businesses and our most overpaid executives just a little bit more. We also support exempting nonprofit healthcare and ending the sunset and so-called level playing field clauses that could hobble this legislation when it's so very much needed. We need this relief right now, so please no on the whole ballot measure idea. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brendan. I'm a renter in District 4, a substitute music teacher with Seattle Public Schools, a member of Socialist Alternative, and I've been active in the Tax Amazon movement for the past few months. It's been incredibly inspiring to hear so many, to talk to thousands of voters to hear how widespread support is for a big business tax for housing in Seattle. If Black Lives Matter, then invest in Black communities by building affordable homes and don't end it with a sunset clause. Did we put a sunset clause on Black suffrage or on ending racist redlining when we made it illegal in the 60s? Racial justice is housing justice. Shame on all the council members who voted against Shama's amendment last week to build 1,000 affordable homes in the CD. Vote yes on the Amazon tax and no to any sunset clause. Defund SPD by 50%. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
I'm a student in District 4 and a member of Socialist Alternative. Last Wednesday was an incredible victory for the Tax Amazon movement. Make no mistake, the $240 million tax being voted on today is not big enough. It should have been amended on Wednesday to fill our city budget holes, fund Green New Deal initiatives, and build housing in the CD in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. But it is over 3 times the size of the original head tax that got watered down and then repealed in 2018. And the reason for this disparity in outcomes is not that the taxes were written or structured differently, or that our elected politicians finessed an agreement with big business. It is the strength of a movement that collected 30,000 signatures in a month and showed beyond a shadow of doubt that the people of Seattle are tired of the progressive tax system. If the Amazon tax is not passed today with no sunset clause, remember that this ballot initiative exists and that we made it happen. Oh, and defund the SPD already. Jesus Christ.
My name is Lisa Smith, District 2. Firstly, this council should support the measure to tax Amazon without a sunset clause to address racist gentrification and fund housing for Black and brown people and jobs, and to vote in support of defunding the police by at least 50%. The 5% recommended by Mayor Durkin is insulting. I'd love to listen to their kitchen table conversations about Black people. Secondly, I have called in to call out the hypocrisy of Mayor Durkin, Governor Inslee, and Attorney General Ferguson. While number 45 is a disgrace and a racist who spews hateful rhetoric and a horrible leader of this country, they are extremely hypocritical. They are the epitome of the pot calling the kettle. The Black citizens, voters of this state, are being murdered by the police. There are no hashtags for hate crime survivors. Governor Inslee, it is time for you to investigate.
Councilmember Sawant, you are recognized.
Today's vote to pass an Amazon tax in Seattle is a historic victory for working people. This victory was hard fought and it was hard won by a movement that wouldn't give up and that faced down a seemingly endless series of obstacles, from the shameful attempts of corporate Democrats in the state legislature to pass a ban on municipal big business taxes, to unfounded delays in the city council, to a pandemic and lockdown which prevented signature gathering, to relentless attacks in the corporate media in Seattle and nationally. We are winning because of the determination of workers and socialists to smash all obstacles and to find a path to victory. Congratulations to the grassroots Tax Amazon campaign led by the coalition that included my organization, Socialist Alternative, and many progressive organizations and unions. Today's vote comes 8 months after working people roundly defeated Amazon in the elections and 2 years after Amazon and the Chamber of Commerce bullied City Council, with the majority of the then council shamefully repealing the 2018 Amazon tax. Now, Jeff Bezos and his billionaire friends are wishing they could call a do-over and have the modest 2018 tax back, because this new tax on Seattle's wealthiest businesses is 4 times larger, and every penny is needed, and far more, in fact, to stop the racist gentrification, sky-high rents, and homelessness in this city, with a massive expansion of publicly owned affordable housing and jobs. This Amazon tax is a housing and jobs bill. It's no accident this comes in the midst of the historic Black Lives Matter rebellion. The legitimacy of the status quo has been utterly smashed by the protest movement, the pandemic, and the deepening crisis of capitalism. In Seattle, Tax Amazon was widely taken up at the Justice for George Floyd protests, where we gathered 20,000 signatures in 20 days. Now the total is over 30,000 signatures. The Amazon tax is perhaps the biggest progressive win in Seattle since socialists and labor unions led the way on the $15 minimum wage, which passed first here and then was won in cities and states around the country. We hope that once again we can inspire working people and youth nationally and globally in this crucial fight against the billionaire class, which is attempting to force working people to pay for the current crisis of capitalism with massive budget cuts. Our rallying cry nationally must be no to austerity. Tax big business, not working people. The Amazon tax shows working people do not need to play defense. We can and should go on the offensive and win big. We must reject all the pathetic attempts of corporate media who, after years of attacking the idea of taxing big business and those fighting for it, now desperately want to spin a narrative to discourage working class struggle and empowerment. Let's be real. The Amazon tax had nothing to do with the quote-unquote savvy of establishment politicians. It had everything to do with the self-organization of working people. Specifically, it has been the threat of the movement's ballot initiative that has pressured the city establishment to act. Tax Amazon filed the ballot measure after a series of grassroots democratic action conferences where hundreds of people, indeed by now thousands, discussed and voted. We did not win everything we wanted, and I strongly oppose the insertion of a sunset clause. But while I disagree with other council members on watering down the legislation, I want to acknowledge their support and votes for the passage of this Amazon tax. I want to thank Councilmember Mosqueda for her work. I want to thank Councilmember Morales for her support for the strong Amazon tax proposal we put forward together in solidarity with the movement. We must build on our momentum. The movement to tax Amazon and big business to fund housing and essential services is needed everywhere, and we must actively spread it. Here in Seattle, we will need to immediately take this energy toward winning the release of all arrested protesters without charges, to defund Seattle police by at least 50%, to stop the sweeps of our homeless neighbors, and to fund tiny house villages, and to win at least 1,000 quality, affordable homes in the Central District for Black working families. The struggle for Black liberation will also mean campaigning for elected community oversight boards with full powers over the police, including hiring and firing, policies and procedures. Our movement was clear-eyed about naming the real force pulling the strings, Amazon. Many argue that we should not, quote unquote, antagonize big business and instead try to broker a deal. But we know that our power comes from working people getting organized, not from any negotiations with the elite. For those watching from outside Seattle, don't let anyone tell you in your fight to tax big business in your city that you're being divisive because class struggle is what gets the goods. The private for-profit housing market has utterly failed working people, not just here and now, but everywhere and always, because capitalism is completely incapable of meeting the most basic needs of working people. Internationally, the working class needs to take the top 500 corporations into democratic public ownership run by workers in the interests of human need and the environment, not billionaire greed. I have a message for Jeff Bezos and his class. If you attempt again to overturn the Amazon tax, working people will go all out in the thousands to defeat you. And we will not stop there, because you see, we are fighting for far more than this tax. We are preparing the ground for a different kind of society. And if you, Jeff Bezos, want to drive that process forward by lashing out against us in our modest demands, then so be it, because we are coming for you and your rotten system. We are coming to dismantle this deeply oppressive, racist, sexist, violent, utterly bankrupt system of capitalism, this police state. We cannot and will not stop until we overthrow it and replace it with a world based instead on solidarity, genuine democracy, and equality, a socialist world. Thank you.
As I've mentioned before, I'm concerned that this is, it penalizes only Seattle employers. It's not a regional solution. I'm concerned that companies providing tens of thousands of jobs to our residents may leave the city, and the small businesses that support the large employers could also be negatively impacted. I'm concerned that it does not exempt all nonprofits, though I appreciate the amendment today for the healthcare providers. I'm concerned the spending plan, we're in a position now to enact the new tax without knowing the full details of how we would spend the money, because the version of the spending plan in front of us today, Council Bill 119811, has removed many of the key details. The previous, more detailed version of the spending plan was better and more targeted, more specific. I'm concerned this is a situation where we're taxing first, asking questions later. As Councilmember Juarez noted, this does not give voters a choice. The tax before us today is 4 times larger than the head tax the previous City Council reversed just 2 years ago. Sending a large tax and spend proposal to the November ballot for voters to decide would have been consistent with other large tax measures and would provide more time to see whether the economy is recovering, whether our state government can pass a better statewide or regional measure for revenue.